Welcome back to the House of Legends, where great women become exceptional. I am your host, Graciela, and in today's episode, oh my god, I was just like, we were laughing before, even before to press record. We have Maria. She's an specialist. She's a doctor. Her specialty is hormones, fertility, and longevity. She's helping entrepreneurs, high achievers like you to take their power back, to feeling more vital, to have that energy, that drive. And how does she does that? By combining or by helping you to become aware how you can actually approach your period, how you can approach the whole month, those 28 days, and combine it with your life, your lifestyle, your life work, your relationships. But you know what better way that I start this podcast by you introducing yourself, Maria. Let us know who you are and what got you to where you are right now. I'm just like vibing a lot with you.
Thank you. I'm honestly so happy. We were talking about this. I'm just so happy that like we get to put this conversation out there. Like that's pretty much it. And so in the general picture, people see me as, a woman's hormone specialist. They come to me with their hormonal imbalances, which a lot of the time is like PMS, horrible times with their period, even like more inflammatory diseases like PCOS and endometriosis. So they come to me usually with a symptom, but what they don't know is through like going through the root causes and going through more of a functional medicine approach, which is more on the holistic side, they get to regain all the things that they want, which is obviously their energy, their confidence, their love with their bodies, because again, they stop feeling like their bodies is against them. But what they really come out with is like understanding what it means to be in their full potential, right? And I think this is where it really fits this podcast, which is like, there's a reason why you call it House of Legends. And so, exactly. So everyone has like their full potential, right? But with women, and we have to fully accept this, is we are very cyclical beings. And a lot of our full potential is literally encrypted in our menstrual cycle, in the ups and downs that our hormones do. And so the more that we can understand them and use their skills for the right, or use the skills that we are provided every single phase of our cycle, we can create more of that clarity, focus, energy, productivity, ease with life, instead of feeling like we're like life is always like against us. We're always like pushing and pushing and pushing and so exhausted. Like there's no need for none of that. And you can get the same result with much less effort if you just obviously allow yourself to start to become a cyclical being. And obviously this takes time. This just happened overnight. It took me a long time to get to the point that I am now, because why? If we think about society now in this very like modern industrialized way, every single system put in place is against the female biology. So not only just like from things like clinical trials to just the basic Western medicine to corporate, the way we have to work, everything is determined according to what?
Man.
Mostly a man biology. And therefore, we are going into a game without the tools that they have. And it becomes a very unfair thing to do. What happens? We try to overcompensate to prove that we can do exactly the same without those tools. And what we don't know is that we don't have those tools. So we're always in our heads like why is it so much easier for them? Or why don't they get as tired as we are? Why am I suffering with my period and I don't have any period? Like it becomes like everything just suddenly, everything's attacking us, your body, society, corporate, the way you think about yourself. And truly, like one of the root causes of getting out of this mess is embracing our cycle, our menstrual cycle. Actually, understanding that is one of our biggest tools for success. And I cannot say this, like I think people can tell, like I am passionate because I have gone through it. All my clients are going through it. Everyone has this awakening of like, oh my gosh, like my entire life, I have been taught to go against my cycle. And therefore, obviously, I don't see it as a tool. Makes sense. But once you slowly start tapping into it, feeling the differences of the phases, working on like other things that make you not have issues with your period, then you're like, oh my gosh, only if someone could have taught me this when I got my period. Only if in school someone gave me the strategy or whatever, like this is how you're going to change every 4 weeks or every month. So a guy is going to be the same for the rest of it. Sorry, for the rest of his life. But you, every month, you go through all of the seasons. For every month, you're building your shedding, you're building your shedding. And so if we, like, again, imagine what it would be to be 11 years old and get this information. How much more could we prevent in terms of all of the mental health issues that we have as women, all of the disease that comes from going against your cycle because you're always in fight or flight, you're in like burnout, all of these things like autoimmune diseases and gut issues starts to form as well. So like you can see where I'm going with this.
And I love it. And thank you so much for sharing in depth. And I can just feel the energy. Like, and that is what was one of the things that light me up. And I was sharing this with you. And I would love to bring you here. Like, you are like, you draw me. I was like, fuck, I just want to know more about her. I just want to bring it into a podcast because you're fucking magnetic. I can just tell that you're really passionate about what you do. Like, you are walking the path. You're not like, just like, yeah, this is kind of business. It's like, no, this changed lives. And this is truly changed lives. I was sharing with you that when I came across of this information, it was like, what is it? Wait a minute. I mean, what? I mean, every single one. And nor, well, when it comes to having a period, that it would be amazing to our parents have had this kind of information. But even as an entrepreneurs, like we came here and we try to be on the hustle, or we hire a male coach. I'm not saying that men are not incredible, they are, but they're like, you have to do this and that all day long, or have a routine every single day. That doesn't work. I'm telling you. I tell that to my body when I'm 1 week before my period. I'm just gonna be really like kind of no. It's not gonna work out. And when we force, you mentioned some things that we get to experience, and I did experience this back in 2022. I was just doing a lot, like trying really, really hard. I was feeling depleted, drained. My weight, my body was not even responding. I was going to the gym, and instead of releasing, I was getting more weight, water weight. I was feeling kind of like, what is going on? And until I reach out the point of burning out, and I decide to step back fully and deciding to going within, like not only understanding my energetic, but also understanding this, like how actually I'm meant to operate in my life. And I think this is when you come with all the magic, Maria, because many of us, we don't have like neither, we know that we have a period. We know that it's approximately 28 days, but we don't even know about the phases and all that. And I would love for you, if you can illustrate us here, what are those phases? And
Yeah.
yes.
I love that. Because like even me, like people have to understand, I did not tap into this female-centered information until 4 years ago. Like I was fully in my masculine, trying to apply all of these crazy restrictive routines. And I am the perfect example of what a really healthy thing that the study shows to be healthy for you does not apply to a female. Like it starts creating problems once you tap into it too hard. So like, for example, if someone tells you to fast, a guy's approach would be to do exactly the same way of fasting every day. It will work for them. For us, we now have to like, okay, fasting tool. Great, is a tool, but we have a cycle. How do we implement this in a 28-day cycle? How does it look like in the different days? One day I can push it, the other day I can't. And it's understanding that ability to just go with the flow, because that is the whole point, is fluidity with your entire life, and understanding that we have to get used to being able to change every week. And we're brainwashed to do what? The opposite. You have to stick with the same thing every week for success. If you don't do the same thing, if you don't dedicate the same hours of the same strategy every day, you're not going to go anywhere. I've had plenty of coaches like that until you transition into what you feel like is a more of a feminine approach, and then it starts working as well for you. But let's go into the overall idea of what a cycle is. So again, we get into puberty, boom, our hormones change, we become cyclical. We now have a monthly cycle of hormones that create the lining of the uterus and then sheds. That's a very simplistic way of seeing it. Those 28 days, which we consider general, because you can have a 31-day cycle, you can have a 32-day cycle. It doesn't really matter as long as it's consistent. And that's what I want to say. Don't let anyone bully you into thinking that a 26-day cycle is too low, or a 32-day cycle is too much. As long as it's consistent, you're good. That's your timeline. That's what your genetics gave you. Okay. So let's go back to a 28-day because that's the easiest way to describe 28 days, right? Every 28 days, the same thing happens. Divide those 28 days in 4, and that's how much you change. You literally almost have 4 different personalities every month.
Damn it.
And when I say that, again, like this, did you see your reaction then? Like you didn't see it as a positive thing. It's 4 different personalities at work, meaning you have an advantage compared to someone who's always the same. You tap into your creative the most, you tap into your productive the most, you tap into your, like, let's say introspective fixing problems. You have an advantage of a skill just blooming at different stages, but then for entrepreneurs like us, it's literally the best recipe for success in our businesses because we can create around that. It's much harder to tap into our cycle when you're working for a corporate. That's for sure. Like it's going to be way more resistance there because again, you're in a structure, like you're in it, like you chose to be in it. So therefore, like when you tap into your cyclical being, it's outside of work most of the times, which is how you start, and it's amazing. But for example, for entrepreneurs, which I think is who is listening to this mostly, is you get to create your schedule. You get to create how much intention on anything you get to do every day. So if you know that week 1 is a week where your creativity is going to go through the roof, your brainstorming capabilities are there to answer anything, you're going to be like, I'm going to book all of the things for this week and let's see how my body responds. If you know that the week after that is social, you're literally like a TED Talk speaker, do it for almost like 5 days or more. You're like, blah, 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 clear, concise. You know how to express yourself. You book like most of your social media stuff for then, maybe your podcast, maybe going live, or maybe just batching stories, batching content. Do it then because your energy is just like, you're not gonna get more energy than when you're like ovulating. There's no way. So book it for then. Then you transition into a more introspective way of being, of really noticing problems, noticing detailed little things that you didn't notice before. This is the time to really start asking the difficult questions and start like, okay, here's what didn't work. Here's what I'm seeing that I didn't see before. Here's a feeling that came up that I didn't have before. And then guess what? The menstrual phase comes when you're bleeding and all of the truth, the real answers, what you actually want is coming to you hardcore. And sometimes what women think that's happening is they're having mood swings, they're feeling too negative. None of that. Like what's actually happening is your body telling you what you really need to know. All of the real feelings, all of the real things that you want, desire to change are there. Therefore, you feel comfortable. You might even feel like maybe a little bit depressed. Like what is the depression coming in? Tap into what that could be. And, when I first started this practice, it was very difficult because now I have to start listening to my body and I don't know what listening to my body means. So what I started with, exactly, that it's really difficult. I'm not, when you, by the way, if you're listening to this, I am coming from a perspective of telling you what is the best possible picture for you, right? But then it takes time for you to, okay, now I have to understand how do I tap into this? And there's going to be resistance from the masculine that you're attached to stay like not in this fluidity type of energy. But how you start really is, first of all, you need to track your cycle. Yeah. You need to have a cycle tracker, an app. One of my favorite apps is called My Flow. So you need to just start putting that in so that the app can understand more or less what's your timeline. Is it a 28-day? Is it a 32-day? And then it gives you by color code what phase you possibly be in. Usually it's very decently accurate. So you'll know that you'll be either here or transitioning into the next one really soon. So you can really understand like, okay, so let me check my app every day. What phase am I in? Okay, great. I'm still in the same, first phase. Like, let me continue tapping into this productivity feeling that, creativity feeling that I have, or like someone told me that I have. Let me see if it's real for me. And so really tracking the cycle, knowing where you are so that you can get used to the different 4 phases. And then I think what really, really changed the game for me was understanding that if I don't go like hardcore to my ovulatory phase, which is the phase where I'm very social and very, very like up for doing all the things to create content, for example, that I'm going to struggle in my business. So for me, like was understanding like what's my weakest point? When do I like what's the thing that I hate to do the most? Content. When can I do that with
Less
the
resistance.
less resistance? Yes, great word. When can I do this with less resistance? Ovulatory phase, and it always worked for me since that day because I really felt the changes in my brain wanting to be like, oh, actually, you know what? I don't really care being in front of the camera. You know what? I can actually record a bunch of stories because I have a couple of ideas. Because why? You're still in the creative patterns of the first half of the cycle. Like those first 14 days after you bleed, they're really like that phase or like creativity and the social part of yourself are just coming out. Like they really want to rage. They want to be like, I'm here. It's time to do all of these things. And so,
Yeah.
Go ahead. Do you have something to say?
Yeah, I will love for you if you, and I love the fact that you're explaining with those 28 days, but let's go a little bit deeper. Like I'm
Okay.
really visual, and this picture is gonna bring some for the visual, the listeners, of course, and the visuals, they're gonna have a better understanding here. Let's say my period lasts or my cycle is 28 days, 28 days. And today it is my period today. So what are the suggestions or how I can approach this week in my business? Let's say that of course I do have the flexibility to choose if I do calls, if I do master classes this specific week, and my period lasts, let's say, on average is like 4 or 6 days. Like, and from there, I would love for you if you can explain the phases. Like, what are the just suggestions that in general? And I know and let's just have a clarification here. If you want something really like personalized for you and you are in business and you are for the long run, Maria at the final of this episode will mention how we can get to work with her, because I truly acknowledge that in order to have a deep understanding of ourselves, we have to go with someone that is professional like her. But with that being said, if we can just bring a general picture here. Let's say my period is today and I know that it lasts for 5 days. What are the suggestions for my business if I'm creating my schedule right now?
Okay, so in my personal opinion, let's work with you right now. Let's personalize this to you.
Awesome.
My personal opinion, your period, like when you're bleeding, is the most powerful phase of the cycle. It is not my favorite, but is the most powerful in my opinion. Why? Because when you bleed, there's this thing that happens in the brain, in the two hemispheres, that they're talking to each other more powerful than any other time. What does this mean? It means that you're going to be really good at evaluating what's going on, analyzing what's going on, and tapping into that intuition, because that intuition will be like almost 100% present if you can tap into it.
Yeah.
So you can analyze and evaluate how you're doing in your business. Is there anything that you're not liking or liking? Because so I always tell people, this is the phase where you get to decide if you want to like course correct. So like we're turning the wheel, we're turning this way. We're turning the wheel, we're going this way. Whatever that way is, project, career, relationship, you get the answers here because of what's happening in the brain.
The brain, like you said.
And again, as a female, you have this part of your brain, which is way more developed than men, which is this intuition, which is not explicable. Intuition is not, it's not possible to explain intuition because it goes beyond intelligence.
Like, it's the thing that when you have that knowingness, right?
Yeah.
I know that I know, like that.
Yes. And so I really think that this is the best time for you to check in with yourself in terms of your business, for example, to receive very clear answers. So let's say that you have a very difficult question that you want to ask to yourself, ask it in this phase. And then just see what comes down. Maybe you don't have clear answers, but maybe you have a feeling. Okay, when I asked this question, the feeling of anxiety came up. Okay, let me write that down and start having a journal just for your interpretations of what's coming down. Because the more you do this every month, the clearer it will be what is the actual issue and how to course correct. You might not find it right away, but as long as you're consistent with trying to ask the same thing, the answer will come. It always happens for me. Even when I don't know the answer, like, it's okay, I don't know right now. I have this feeling, let me write it down. Let's see if in the next phase, sorry, in the next cycle, when I'm bleeding, I have the same feeling. It's always the same thing. And eventually you find the answers.
Yeah, I love that. And before we move to the second phase, I just want to highlight that, ladies, if you listen to this, after listening to this, come back and just have that fucking journal. Like, this is gold, Maria. This is mind blowing. This is not just, this is a game changer for every single entrepreneur. It doesn't matter if you're making 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures, whatever the figure is. I don't care what level you are. This is the fucking game changer. And I'm really grateful to have you here, Maria. I have to highlight that because this is huge. This is fucking huge. Can you imagine start to doing that? Just journaling, like Maria said, in this specific, I will say, I lost my track of thought right here.
That's okay.
Phase, you have the opportunity actually to correct, shift. You don't have to wait until the next quarter. You can do this every single month and give yourself.
Oh my gosh. Yes, you're nailing this. Like, do you see, like, that's your, like, you don't have to wait. Like, you were given the gift of a menstrual cycle, which allows you to figure it out every month. You have the answer that you're looking for. Every single month, it's going to come up on purpose.
Yeah, and actually, when we were starting the podcast right here, I have to bring it on before the second part right here. But you said, even on my face, like, well, having a cycle is not that exciting, that exciting. But now that you're explaining this way, it's like, oh, I'm just gonna pay attention to me, to my body, and tune in every single month. And like you mentioned, this is a process. It's not something that in one day I have to figure that out. It's a process where you get to know yourself and actually you get to be in the present moment, which actually affects every single area of your life. So this is like the game changer. And I'm remarking this for the, I don't know what time, second, third time. This is the key for many things that we've been missing or we've been trying to compensate with action. So pay close attention right here.
Yep. So this is an entire paradigm shift. Like, we're really having to restructure thoughts, ideas with your period, with your menstrual cycle. All I want you to know is your menstrual cycle is amazing and is your best friend because it gives you full on skills that you're really good at without having to like practice too much. They're just there. And it gives you answers. So you will love someone that is giving you gifts and is giving you answers always. So your menstrual cycle is doing that for you every month. So 12 months in a row, you get all of these multiple times.
Yeah. So, yes.
I
love it. And what about the next phase, the second phase after a period, after those 5 days? What are the suggestions in general? Like I said, and if I'm remarking for the second time here, if you desire to have something personalized and customized to you, Maria, she's going to give us some details on our last. All right.
So you stop bleeding. Yeah. When you stop bleeding, you go into the next phase. So this phase that you're bleeding is called menstrual phase, obviously. That's menstrual phase, you're bleeding. After that, you go into your second phase, which is called the follicular phase, just because your follicles are creating that little egg. That's why. But anyway, the follicular phase, what it does really is the brain starts to change because estrogen starts to rise, which is a sex hormone that needs to elevate a lot in this phase. So when estrogen is present in the brain, it literally highlights the parts of the brain that encompass your creativity and planning, for example. So in the follicular phase, what I suggest is like, actually try to book things for this phase that are a little bit like complex, that your brain needs to be like really good at brainstorming, really good at like finding solutions and stuff like that, because you have all of the power to get to that. So for example, just to give you a perspective, if I can go back to the menstrual phase, in the menstrual phase, you feel like this is not working, we need to change that. You don't have to have the answers then, because you're going to go into the follicular phase that gives you the answers. So it's really, all of it is a process of like a cycle of understanding and getting answers. So something doesn't feel good in the menstrual phase, great, write it down, and then think about how to problem solve for that in the next one, which is this one. So your brain is really highlighted in these parts. So if you have a team, booking team meetings with the people that help you, so you can brainstorm the issues or whatever comes up for you, because you'll be like a boss, like, really being creative. So I highly recommend doing that in this phase. It's really just creativity and planning. Anything that encompasses those skills, do that in this, let's say 7 to 10 days. Usually depends on the person.
Right. And I love that, like you mentioned this, and this is really, it's getting clearer and clearer. And also for the listeners, I'll say that not only we're gonna get more excited about our period, but it's building up. Like in the first 5-6 days, depends on how long it lasts your period, you have the opportunity to analyze, to go deep, to have that deeper, to like access to that intuition, like you mentioned, that knowingness of this is working, this is not working. And the next following 7 days, 8 days, you have actually the energy to create, to have those meetings, to solving. And I will say that is just compounding, and it is so beautiful to see that. Like, oh, this is just mind-blowing. I'm just telling you, like, this is getting so clear even for me. Like, and I did have the information, but this is like so refreshing every single time.
Yeah, like I just want to say that if we weren't forced out of this cyclical way that we lived, we would have known this intuitively. We would normally go into these tasks that operate with different skills because we just are attracted to that. Like I am magnetized to just sit in my chair and write my feelings and write all the things that are not going well in this phase. I am magnetized to really create the solutions for what didn't work last time on the next week. And like you would naturally do this. So I want you to know that all of these things that we're talking about, you've got them within you. It's just waking them up, waking them up, waking them up. And the more you just allow it to be, the more it will just like, it's like a little shy kid that like was bullied, and now a person has to be gentle and like, it's okay, you're good enough, you're amazing. And suddenly like, okay, I am amazing. None of what they say is true. And like, blah, blah. Now it's the same thing. You've been so forced into this masculine of being the same static being. And if you're not, there's something wrong with you. Now you're like gently pulling yourself out of what you know. And by the way, let me tell you this, because this is an important part. Your body remembers anything that you experienced in your lifetime. It stays stored in your tissues, in your fascia, in your muscles. So it's normal to feel resistance when you want to experience something else, because it's always bringing you back into what you know. It's normal.
Thank you for mentioning that, because sometimes we think, oh, it's resistance, we feel this way, it's because we're doing something wrong or it's not for me. No, actually not. And this highlight that the thing that you mentioned right now is like, well, because that was a storage in your body that you can move through by understanding and by being gentle with yourself.
Yes. Perfect.
What is the next phase? Because I'm really getting excited. I'm telling you, at first I was like,
yeah. So the next phase is the ovulatory phase. Very clear, you're ovulating. So ovulation, what does that really mean? Ovulation is when you're just magnetic. Like the sperm is looking for the egg doesn't move. The sperm is always just looking. The egg is just sitting in one place, irradiating all of these chemicals, and the sperm is like desperate to get there. So take the approach of what the egg is doing. You are magnetic. You are everything. Everyone, by the way, thinks you're more pretty in this phase naturally. By the way, just letting you know. So this is a great time to date. This is a great time to date. Go on that first date.
Yes. Oh my God, this is so funny. And I love, Maria. I have to say that before we proceed with this phase, like you bring this essence where I'm learning a lot, and people will feel the same way. We're learning a lot, we're laughing, and it's so light. It's not like this heavy energy where you're telling me what to do. It's like I'm having a chat with my fucking best friend, and she knows a lot. So it's just I'm really open. The way that you're explaining is just so rich and simple, like really simple. I love that.
Yeah, thank you. And I want everyone, I'm going to take what you said because we're doing the opposite that we've been taught. If you force yourself into this and you make it a thing that if I'm not feeling this way in this day, it's something's wrong with me, like you're near masculine. You're not letting the feminine tap in, like, so it's all about you doing what's best for you. Even in my advice, there's going to be nuances for certain women. There's going to be certain women who's going to say, actually feel great to do this in my menstrual cycle or when I'm in my period. Great, do it. That's for you then. Like for, you know what I mean? So even in this, there's nuances. Everyone's very personalized, but just generally speaking, the cycle does this for you. So let's continue with the ovulation rate.
Yes, I do have a question here, and this is the
Yeah.
only question because of like I told you before, I don't like I had 10,000 questions. So the ovulation only lasts 24 days or is more?
You mean
That
like when the egg comes out or the phase?
the phase.
No, the phase is with the phase. You're probably in it for 5 days.
Oh, love it.
Yeah.
Like you said, I want to be looking pretty and magnetic for not only for 24 hours. That's not fair.
You're starting to like, so let me tell you this. So you bleed, right? You're bleeding. When it stops, from that day on, you're building that magnetism. So think that from that day,
Yeah.
you're actually building. So you're always magnetic, and every day that you wake up, you're just more naturally, and then you will peak. And then as you go into the phase after the ovulation, you're still like in the first 5 days of that phase that comes after ovulation, you're still kind of in that. You're just slowly going away from it. So
Awesome.
you actually have a lot of time where this feeling is present, but really for 5 days, you'll feel this probably. Maybe 3 to 5, depends on the person. A person that has a really short cycle, maybe they'll feel like this crazy, like I feel magnetic to people, like I feel so social, I feel like so connected, maybe for 3 to 5 days. Yeah.
And when it comes to those five days, what are the suggestions? And I'm gonna bring again the business part because
Yeah.
we're all here in business. So what are the suggestions? Maybe more one-on-ones, maybe master classes, more meetings. What do you think about that?
Okay, so I do want to say something because I don't want it to be misinterpreted because I've heard this misinterpretation.
Okay.
You can choose to do whatever you want at whatever day you want. What I'm saying is you will lose less energy when you choose to do it in the phase where the skill is enhanced. So for example, let's say that your brain is really like the synapses of your brain in the social center are like this, and you're trying to go into your intuition for what's wrong in your business. You're probably going to have to pull a lot of energy to get there. So it's just naturally tap into things and lose less energy. But if you want to do that, you can do it perfectly. You're just going to use more energy, which means at the end of the day, your self-care needs to be just a little bit more. So you can recoup the energy that you use. So you can do whatever you want, whenever you want, but we're being smart with our energy. And this is what men do every day, by the way. So we're going into their field. We're going into the way they play the game. We're playing the same.
And I love that you make that clarification because one of the things, this is not restrictive at all, but we're working smarter, not harder, and actually utilizing and having that energy that is, like you said, is natural. We know for the fact how our body is so smart, we're so intelligent that we can tap in that, but we have so much condition, and this is the way that we can bring awareness back. That with your life work, that's why I was always remark, this is amazing because you're bringing the power back to the woman, and from here we can just actually just remember naturally how we are meant to operate.
Let me give you an example because I also want, there's a lot of complexity in this topic. Why? Because you will benefit from also doing something in a phase that is not like necessarily highlighted for that. So let me give an example. As coaches, you and me, we have one-on-ones or group. That means that we have to use the social part of us all the time. And our cycle is kind of like, yeah, but you really don't want to, you really, oh my gosh, sorry.
All good.
If you just go with like the basic idea of how the cycle works, you would say no, because then you're not going to be really good because you're not like in your social part of the cycle, which is the ovulatory cycle. That means you're not really good at speaking. It's not that. Is again, everything is just, we're talking energy conservation and skill enhancement. So I choose to have one-on-one calls every single week. Why? Independently of what phase I'm in, not just ovulatory, because my clients get to have different wisdom from whatever phase I am. So let me explain.
This is
So
so deep. Yeah.
yeah. So let's say like you're my client and I'm like, okay, today I'm on the ovulation phase. You're about to experience a very like, I want to teach you a lot of things. Today is about like revolutionizing this part of your health. So I'm teaching mode. I'm teaching mode. I'm teaching mode. I want to speak to you. And so I'm more in this mode. When I go and do the same thing, when I'm bleeding, for example, I'm very reserved in that call. I'm really tapped into my intuition. So my client might say things that I catch on, and I'm like, we're talking about this today. Forget everything that I was going to teach you. I'm talking about this because I have a gut feeling that this is important for you. And this gut feeling perhaps wasn't so easy to catch when I'm like ovulating and everything's like, talk to everyone. You get me? So my clients get to experience the best of me too if I do this in all the phases. But I know that in that call that I'm bleeding, I'm exhausted by the end of it. I'm like, oh, I need to take 30 minutes break just to recoup from that because it's intense. Like
Yes.
I'm not meant to put so much effort into my social energy, and it's okay. And I accept that. And I just go and do like a 30-minute break instead of like a 10-minute break. You know what I mean? And that's norm. And that's us creating businesses that are sustainable and delicious and amazing. And it makes us feel happy. And this is when we make the money. Not when we're like fighting against the thing that someone else has told us that has to be this way every single day. You get me? You get where I'm going with this?
Yeah, and I love it. This is mind blowing. And even this, I have to say it here. It's like a permission slip. I was like kind of even the way that I was putting my calls, and I do have clients every single week, right? But I was being more mindful about just like, hey, maybe in this 14 days and this, and then my period, I don't want just to have clients that much, or just put it like on the day that afford or whatever. And now like I didn't have this perspective, and now you have it like, hey, they can experience this part of me, and that's okay. I just want to take care more about rest even more. That's it. But that
Yeah.
I can be functional, and I can be mindful, and I can actually people can I can afford in different areas, or they can experience seeing me in different ways. So this is huge. This is permission to sleep. I'm telling you. Thank you for
I
that.
love that. And you know what's the best part is that you can just experiment. You can decide for 6 months straight, I am going to do calls also in my menstrual phase and see if this really benefits me and my clients in this particular time of my life. And then you're like, okay, maybe not for me right now. Then you decide a year later, okay, maybe I'm ready to tap into that. You just get to decide whenever the hell you want. And that's the best part of entrepreneur. It's like you get to decide what serves you in the right time. If it's not now, it can be later. Don't make it a problem. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's so fucking huge. This is so good. I'm just telling you, this is so exciting. Like, this is like, wow, this is changing the entire game. This is changing the whole fucking paradigm of like rigidness and you have to and you should. And it's like, no, it's flexibility and you can try. That doesn't mean that you just want to just like let down in the feminine. Actually, no, you're combining the feminine and the masculine.
Yes.
But actually in that the thing that works for you, and actually having a business that fucking that have business that support you, and not vice versa, that you have to support the business, right?
100%. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. And by the way, the only reason why I'm saying this is because I've experimented it all. I've been the rigid person. I've been the too flexible person. And I understood what does it mean for me to balance my feminine and my masculine? What does it mean for my business? And if I go and tell, let's say Susan over there, how to run her business based on my experience, she's not going to have much success. Maybe she will have success in the beginning, but then she will hit a plateau. Why? Because she doesn't know how to listen to what she needs in the moment that she needs. And this is why cycle awareness is so important. Is because if you just step by step every day tap into what you need for each cycle, you will learn the skills to do that in every other area, in business, in your romantic relationships, in your relationship with your kids, in whatever. Like the skills will transpire everywhere. This is why, like, start with your menstrual cycles, try to understand what you need in those 4 phases, and then trust me, like, you don't even have to put an effort into anything. You will figure it out as you go. And just be like, let it be flexible, let it be fluid. Don't make it a problem. What doesn't work for you today doesn't mean it doesn't work for you in 2 years. That is the feminine. And then the masculine comes in with a little bit of scheduling, right? Like, so I schedule things like, okay,
Yeah.
in this week, I'm going to do this and this and this. If I just tap into my feminine only, it's chaos. I don't get anything done, blah, 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 blah. Same thing. If I tap into my masculine only, I'm going to burn out and no one's going to see me for a year because I pushed too hard and I didn't know how to balance it out. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I love that we are also conscious about both energies. Like it's not about just being in one, black or white. It's combining both. And like you mentioned, even in your bio, like being having this vitality, having this energy back because you know when to act, you know when to rest, and you are learning to be you, really, to remember who you truly are in that specific area. And from there, every single area, not only the business, not only yourself, but every single area, relationships, income wise, everything just is, it will be an effect of who you are being in that way. And the last phase here after ovulation, what is how we can approach this phase in the most powerful way, I will say.
Yeah. Actually, I don't think we spoke about ovulation.
Oh, right, that's true.
I think, but it's super quick because ovulation, what's happening is, I kind of just said it before, your brain is highlighting a big part of what we call the social center.
Okay.
So if the social center is highlighted, you're very good at speaking, you're very good at hearing, you're very good at communicating. So what in your business implies that? Content creation, maybe calls that you just want to do in this phase, who knows? Try it out. Anything that like relates to using your voice and using your, like, showing up as a person, just do it here. Like really focus on doing the most here so that you have less of these things to do in the other phases, that they don't bother you as much. And like I've tapped into trying multiple things, and this is when I figured out that actually what works for me is just batching stories, for example. It's not even the posts, it's the stories, because I really don't want to show up on social media in the phase after ovulation. I just don't. It's clear for me that I don't. And I respect that. I'm not trying to force it out. And so when I was like, oh, actually, you know what? Like, I'll just leave it for next week. Like, just being too much in my feminine, just leave it for next week. I would hate myself. Like, oh my God, past Maria, like, why did you not listen to the desire of being social in this phase? Like, now you're like just complaining all day long. And when you complain, you're in such a negative vibration. Nothing else goes well in the day. You're like in this loop of negativity. It's like, for what? So you learn your lesson by trying things out as well.
I love it. And we have actually this gift with our phone, and we can just record, like you said, stories. You can record some snapshots that you can put later on, and you don't have to. And that's when you bring actually the masculine, having a structure and working with the feminine in your favor. So here, ladies, I strongly suggest you, after we finish this podcast, come back and take notes. This is huge. I'm telling you.
So now we can move on to the last phase, which is the luteal phase. I'm just saying the terms out loud because it's important that we are familiar with the own words of our cycle, I think. Yeah. And so this phase is really interesting because what happens in the brain is progesterone, which is the hormone of the second phase of the cycle. Progesterone starts to come in. And I want people to memorize this. Progesterone is like a calming, soothing hormone. And estrogen is the opposite. It's like if you have two twins, one is like the shyest and the one is like the most like extroverted thing. So estrogen is the extroverted, progesterone is the introverted. And so remember, you're being flooded by a hormone that naturally puts you in a more introspective energy, which is I actually really like being with myself in this phase. I like nurturing and tending. So what happens in this phase is, and a lot of women tell me that, they'll notice that out of the blue, they want to organize everything, organize their files, organize their house, clean their house, like organize their pantry. And this is the luteal phase, doing the work, which is like completing things, nurturing things, tending things. And so for business or for work, it's about just finishing off the things that you started. Like if there's stuff still open in the to-do list, you finish them off. And it will never feel as satisfactory as in this phase. Nice. You will be ticking that thing like, oh, that feels so good in that phase. Trust.
I love that. And and I love it. Like really, Maria, you have this is so powerful. Like I cannot emphasize the way that you approach it. Like I have to light up because this is so like easy, clear, digestible. So what the freak you have magic, I'm telling you.
Thank you.
I love those examples because you don't want more information, you want tangibles. And right
Yeah.
now we have the tangibles. You know that in the last phase you can organize, you can finish some of the things, and that's gonna give you, like you said, satisfaction. And you're gonna feel like, I did accomplish this. And the most important part, like you said, Maria, we are utilizing our energy in a smart way. We can do this in any single every single phase, but you are becoming more in tune with your body. And one of the words that came for me while you were sharing your experience as well, because you had walked the path. You, like you said,
Yeah.
I've been in my masculine or in my feminine, so you had walked the path and you have found this beautiful sweet spot. But that took you a process, and
Yeah.
also that process has allowed you to trust yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And just have like the biggest and most important advice I've received from my own self is just be patient and kind through your process. Your timeline is your timeline. If you're going to have resistance, you're going to have resistance. Just be with it, accept it, be kind, be patient. Because again, like the masculine wants to achieve things right away in that moment. It has to be like that. The result has to be this. There's no flexibility or fluidity to, okay, maybe you work this way. Let's see what we can like let's see what we can change for the next one. So yeah, but going back to actually, I just had a download. Going back to the luteal phase, I think that maybe something that I would suggest, like again, tangible, is think about like anything that has like minute detail in your business. So for me, it's like sometimes it's finishing contracts or like finance sheets or even like doing like important research that takes me a long time of like reading detailed protocols and stuff like that. Again, I'm in medicine, I have to read a lot of science. So anything that includes minute detail, a lot of attention, a lot of focused attention. So it could be like proofreading for some people, editing a book, again, quarterly reports, anything like that. Do it in this phase. So what I've learned to do is this. Someone asks me for something that involves a lot of like detail oriented energy, and I'm in like, let's say, the beginning of my follicular phase, and I'm like, can I wait 2 weeks to deliver this? Can I wait 2 weeks to finish this contract? Yes, great. Put it in my calendar. Is there in 2 weeks? Finish contract of this person, or in 2 weeks send a finance sheet to my accountant. Like I analyze in the moment. Does this serve me to do right now? If yes, I'll do it right now. Even if I don't want to do it, I'll still do it because it's important. If no, I'll schedule it. So learn to also tap into that. Is like, it doesn't mean that you always have to put things in those areas. It just means like if you can do it then, like honestly, doing a finance sheet makes me feel almost like excited for the luteal phase. But if I think about it in the follicular phase, I hate it. It's the same thing with exercise. And this is a whole podcast, like adapting exercise for those 4 phases is the same thing. So a lot of women tell me like, oh, I hate yoga, this and that, this and that, this and that. I'm like, have you tried yoga just in your menstrual phase and your late luteal phase? And they're like, oh yeah, you're right. Actually, I hate yoga when I'm in the follicular phase and I'm in ovulatory phase, but I don't hate it like later on. There you go. It's like, it's what serves you in the right phase. High energy doesn't blend with slow yoga. High energy blends with like high intensity exercise, a lot of weight stuff. When you don't have as much energy. So it's the same thing with your business. Where can you put your energy? Where can you put your focus? Can you schedule it? Can you not schedule it? Do it then or move it away.
Yeah. Oh
Simple.
my gosh, this is just we have to have a second like podcast here because it's like you bring me so much awareness. I used to compete on bodybuilding back in 2017. I was pushing myself. I'm telling you, like, and I was not even aware of that this is a gift. Like this is, and I have friends that they are actually clients that sometimes some of them are still competing, or some of them have, like you said, some are doing Pilates or things like that. So as a woman, we have so many things behind the scenes. I would love to have a second fucking podcast with you because it's so huge. I mean, sometimes we think like, oh, something is wrong with me, or it's because I'm lazy, or like, you're not lazy. It's just you're not taking this huge part in consideration, right? Yeah.
And
It's
honestly, like I want to say a very underrated area that gets to flourish and people don't necessarily think of it is your love life. If you
oh
already have a partner,
yeah, we have to bring you for the moment.
no, but like I'm talking from personal experience, like me understanding me in the 4 different phases was the biggest relief for me and my partner. The ability to just communicate and do and like what he knows that I can expect from him differently. Like what I expect from him in the ovulatory phase is not the same that I expect in the luteal phase. How is he supposed to know that? And then I have like some attitude or some expectation. So I think that cycle awareness and understanding the cycle for different phases is what's going to make a woman be in their full potential. One of the things, obviously, there's probably so much more like spiritual awakenings and blah, blah, blah. But this is one aspect that, in terms of like physical presence, will be the most impactful from my experience.
Yeah, no, I mean, wow, like I wasn't even thinking about this area. I'm telling you, I was just like, well, more like business wise.
Yeah.
Like I said before, as a woman, we have a lot of departments. And when we are taking in consideration this, like you mentioned, yeah, there's so many tools, but it's just like this impacts every single one, energy wise, productivity wise,
Yeah.
business, relationships, exercise. So this is a must. I'm saying for all of the listeners, like, of course, you do your due diligence, you go and check Maria's profile that I want to make sure that I'm going to put it on the YouTube video and also on all the platforms. But this is key. As you may see, it's not only one area. And this is
Yeah.
just like, even for me right now, for the part of the relationship, is like, wow, Maria, this is mind blowing. I want to hear more. Like,
I know.
you're
I know.
magnetic, I'm telling you.
There's so much to say. Like it's nonstop. That's why I work with people sometimes for like 7 months or more, because there's just so much abundance of information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way
So
that you put it, the way that you put it, Maria, and I'm remarking a lot right here, that is so simple, easy, and it's not like with complicated things that I need to do, and I have to have my dictionary here with you, and like you are really fresh, you're really refreshing, and it's just pleasure to have you here. If I can use that word, just really pleasure your energy. It's just so full of energy, like, and I can truly feel and just I think we're going a little bit over time, but it's just like it feels light. It doesn't feel nothing at all like heavy or so fucking good. I'm telling you, and my listeners are gonna love it. I'm pretty sure of that.
yeah. Thank you so much. You're so sweet. But again, like this was transformational for me, and your reaction is just natural because your body is giving you a full yes. It's finally listening to something like a
Yeah,
finally we can relax in who we are. Like this makes sense, this makes sense, this makes sense. You're like, yes, 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 yes. There's a reason why you're drawn to this information because your body is telling you that's it. Like tap into that. Listen, like if you're excited about this, it means something.
yeah, and I think when we are ready, the information is gets presented to us, and even the listeners. Every single listener, if you listen this, you're listening this because it's not for coincidence, it's because you are ready to receive it. When we receive the information, it's because we are ready. It's because we call it in one way or another. So
Yeah.
this is fantastic, Maria. Before we wrap up our episode, that it was not even an episode, it was like more than a master class. It was like I don't know, it was just really deep, I'm telling you. And with your energy and the way that you, I just felt like I was just chatting with my best friend. I was like, just having this beautiful, like flowing reciprocal energy. It was just mind blowing. If you
Thank
could
you.
share with us where we can find you, the ways that we get to work with you. And after that, I'm going to ask you a question that I always ask my listeners. But yeah, let us take it away.
I think Instagram is where I like to be the most. So I
Yeah.
always tell people like go on Instagram, follow me. And I offer everyone something that I needed when I was 16 years old, which was a 1 hour conversation with a doctor that could just validate me, listen to what I need, and give me the right path, like open the door to the right path, right? And so I always tell every woman, like, you don't have to work with me, but like these 45 minutes to 1 hour can be so transformational in the way that you receive the information that I give you. I have so many women that just come to these calls and they're like, honestly, I went off the call and I cried because I never felt like someone actually listened to me the way he did. Because again, it's the idea that the experience that most doctors have, the most doctors have is of like, there's only one way of doing this. And if you're feeling a certain way or blah, 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 like go home and like take the pill, like it'll be fine. And so like go on Instagram, check me out. If you want to have a conversation with me, there's a link to book a free call. I love doing this. It's my gift. It's really like my commitment to every woman on the planet is a 1 hour call with me. So I can try to give you or open your eyes to really what you need. And then obviously it's up to you to decide what you do after that. But I love this. Like I thrive on these calls. So I'd like to have a lot of them.
This is so beautiful. And one of the things that you're not only changing other people's lives with this gift, but you're also changing the way that we get to see the doctors, the way that we perceive. You're creating a new whole paradigm. You're a fucking legend. Like I'm telling you, I know you're a doctor. I know you're a professional, but the way that we were interacting here, and the listeners will appreciate that. It was just like really, God, so good. Like I was not feeling restricted. I was not feeling like I'm less than you. I was like, I felt like really this deep connection. And I think when we get to feel that way, and as a woman, is when we open up. And like you mentioned, like when we open up, actually, we are able to see, hey, that is something here for me. And you provide what is available. And actually, after that, the people can choose. They can choose in what way, in what extent they can work together with you, or maybe later on, you name it. But you are changing the whole paradigm. You're changing the whole story, and I just really love it.
Thank you. I love it.
Huge, Maria. Right here, the last question. What is your superpower, Marianne?
My superpower.
Yeah.
My superpower.
Yeah.
I think actually my current superpower is being extremely connected with my intuition and letting it be my guide. Like I have desired this moment without even knowing that I desired. So my superpower is I do not shut myself down anymore because I'm deeply connected with what my body tells me. And I literally like, honestly, if I can say it right now, to be able to get to a point where you're deeply connected to your body almost feels like a superpower when you start, because in the beginning you're like, but how? Like, okay, something come to me and make me feel something.
Yeah, tell me how.
And I think that this is an actual superpower of women.
Yeah.
By the way, I do think that intuition is, I don't know how to explain it in a way. I don't think we have words to explain intuition at all in this realm, this physical world. But I think it's like this divine connection with all the answers. And we're just receiving. And that's what intuition is like beyond intelligence, beyond explainable. It's like you receive exactly what you need for you. But we have to have our sensors open for that, because most of us just have it shut down. And that's okay, because that's how we grew up. But there's a moment where you can change that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That is so huge. And I think that gift that specifically describe it, and I'm going to extend a little bit more about in that gift, the energy that you bring to the table, the way that I'm speaking for myself, the listeners, they can just get into their own conclusions, but the way that you make me feel, it was just like, I was cracked up and like fucking up into really like, tell me everything. And I think I mentioned to you, I'm not that with every single woman. And it's so, that gift is just so powerful when you are able to make other people, another woman, and this is our first time like interacting here, make feel safe and fully connected, is because you have those qualities within you. Like, and I just felt really like, in another world. I'm telling you, really open. And I think that is one of your gifts as well. You are crafting women in the good way, open up, that for you get for them to share and to feel comfortable and safe and seen. So you make people feel seen, safe, and you are fucking magnetic, by the way. I mean, those superpowers. Yeah, you draw me into your wall. I mean, you didn't do nothing. You didn't even mention, you didn't even comment on my things. I was just like, this woman. From one slide, when I saw you with Juliana, I was like, this woman. I was just like, and I was just benching all the things. And I'm sharing this openly here, ladies. Like, yes, we can bench another woman. I'm telling you, because if she's gifted, you know it. You can follow her, right? But yeah, those are the gifts that I see in you. Like, you really are, you are a legend. You're really powerful, like magnetic. You make people feel safe, seen, and you're breaking the whole paradigm of being a doctor and being just like boring or telling me just one way to do things.
Yes, 100%. I'll take that. I feel like maybe one of my superpowers is right now being able to somehow bring out this energy of empowerment that women all have, but like they feel it coming out when I speak.
Yeah, yes, your voice. I'm telling you. And the simplicity, why, and the simplicity, but not let's not confuse the simplicity with just like just tips. Simplicity and potency of your life work and the way that you express it is just mind blowing. Another thing as well. You have that.
Thank you. You're so sweet. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maria, for being here. Thank you, all the listeners, and we'll see you next week.